is up, Insomniacs Midnight Sun 519 here, back with another install video for Sasha, my 2017 Tacoma TRD Pro. As you can see, I have myself a winch now and a glorious Factor 55 Fairlead. So this winch is from Openroad 4-wheel drive. It's a 13,000 pound winch that can be both wireless and wired. So obviously I'm going to prefer the wireless because you're not constricted by a cord. Cords and cables are the worst, but you know, it's whatever. Yeah, so the install is super quick and easy, and very, very, very straightforward. So stay tuned, because I did do something dumb at the end of this video, and just kind of like talk a little bit about how to like minimize being dumb with a winch in the future. Yeah, but looks great, it works, and I'm very excited to finally have a little bit extra on the recovery geared side of things. Just to be standing by for when I'm out in the trail and I get into some sticky situations. So with that, let's hop into the video right here. Talk about heavy. So as you guys already heard in the intro, we're going to be installing this Openroad 4-wheel drive 13,000 pound winch. And I also got myself a Factor 55 ULTRAHOOK. Yeah, I guess I already have this one open, so we'll just crack into this and take a look. This thing is absolutely incredible, and I wasn't realizing how large it was going to be, but holy crap, look at this. It's so pretty too, just the shade of red. It's gorgeous. Amazing. I can't wait. So yeah, this is going to be the Fairlead, or not the Fairlead? I don't know, but it's going to be resting right there in the front of the bumper once we have the winch installed. So let's crack open this bad boy and we're going to see what's all inside. So the box is open and we've got what looks like our ground, I would assume our ground cable connection. We have our wired remote that comes with this bad boy, and it should also come with a wireless, I believe. Yeah, so that's that. Of course, you got your little Openroad tab that you can stick on the end of your Fairlead if you so choose. This is just some hardware. This is actually a real interesting piece right here that Openroad 4-wheel drive includes. It sits on the edge of the flat link, and then you can set your hook on this instead of having to just like leave it dangling or hook it onto one of your D-ring. Oh yeah, and then they just gave us our little D-ring, or a little hook. We're not going to use this one though, because, well, we have that one, which is much better. So we'll set them aside, and then these look like your instructions, and yeah, instructions manual. And then underneath the styrofoam, oh buddy boy, check that out. Yeah, there it is. So there's our wireless remote. It's got a little bit of a ding in it. Well, that's unfortunate. Huh. Probably just because it can like bounce around in there. I ended up going with the synthetic rope instead of the steel, just because it's a little bit lighter, and I believe like in some ways it's even stronger. I don't know the science behind it, but that's fine. Oh, we got a hat too. I don't really care about that, but that's cool. This is our control box right here that's going to mount on top of the winch, and of course we have our cables and whatnot that'll run to the winch along with our power cable. And then this is the little turn piece that's going to sit right up on top of this, and that's what's going to lock and unlock the clutch for this guy, so we can unspool it. And then just a little Openroad flat link. So I'll probably end up upgrading to maybe a Factor 55 one in the future. I'm not really sure, but for now this is totally gonna work. So let's get this guy out of the box and we'll look at it on the bench. So here it is sitting out on the bench. I haven't bothered to open up the instructions manual and take a look at that yet. But we do have that. It came with 2 of the wireless remotes, so there's another one up underneath the winch itself. Long story short with this guy, the install shouldn't really be too difficult. We get the box, I think, mounted up on top, the control box, right? And then we get it hooked up to each of these. And then we're going to have to get the body armor 4x4 bumper removed from Sasha. We'll get the winch hooked up onto the bumper, and then we slap it back on. And so we'll go through all of that. So first things first, I'm just going to kind of drop stuff on my workbench here. Just going to grab a set of pliers here and pop that off because we don't need that on there anymore. There's styrofoam everywhere, my guys. So looking at the controller housing, right, there's these 2 screws in the back here, and then these 2 little resting plates on the front. You can see are hooked. So these literally are going to hook right into the front there, and then we'll have to unscrew these on the back. They're just a standard Phillips screwdriver. We'll align it to just center it up on the motor housing though, and then screw it back in from the back. Now this can be placed anywhere along here, obviously, so you can put it wherever you'd like to. So if you have to move it around because you're running a Jeep or something like that, and the housing is actually in the way of something else within your truck, obviously you can place it anywhere. You don't even I don't even think you have to have it on there, because this isn't providing any of the actual torque for the motor. It's just running the cables and then connecting to your remotes and whatnot. So in all honesty, if you had a different spot in the truck you wanted to mount it on, you probably could, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to get it unscrewed from the back and screwed in there. Well, I would say those screws in the back are not so much for tightening this thing down to like pinch it, because you can still slide, which is probably fun. Once we get these cables installed on the left side here anyways, this motor housing, or the box, the controller is going to be where it wants to be anyways, based on the tension from the wires. So we got a few wires coming out here. This red one is going to be running for our power, and then these 3 that have these little covers right here are going to be what are connecting to each of these terminals. It's very straightforward because they're color coded, right? So you got a black, you got a yellow, and you got a red. And so looking on the motor housing itself too, you got a red here, a black, the yellow, black, yellow, red. So I'm going to go ahead and get those guys screwed into this place. So just before I tighten it down, just to show you, right, so we got the black cable with the yellow sleeve on the yellow terminal here, and then we got a flat washer, lock washer, and then this is a 14 millimeter, oh, it's upside down, there you go, 14 millimeter nut on the top. So we're just going to tighten that down and then put the little rubber boot right over top of it, and then we'll do the same for the other 3. Oh, one of the things to note about this motor that I forgot to mention when I first cracked into it, but it is indeed waterproof. I was looking to see if it was written anywhere on the case or in the instructions, but this is IP, was it 67 rated? Whatever that means.
What is up, guys? Midnight Sun from the bench. So I just wanted to run over that IP rating real quick again, because I did a little more reading on it on Google just to make sure I knew what I was talking about, because I didn't entirely when I made the video. But anyways, so IP67, which is the rating of the Openroad 4-wheel drive winch, and hello Sadie. Anyways, IP67 is the rating of this winch. Each number, the first number is referring to the dust and particulates, like the ability for dust and particulates to get inside of the motor housing and the control box housing, right? And so on a range of 0 to 6, which is that range of that first number, 6 being absolutely dust tight, no dust can get in, 0 meaning it's open, literally you can see everything, right? This is a 6, right? That second number, is referring to the capability of a liquid, specifically water, to get inside of both like the motor housing and that control box housing as well. It's on a range from 0 to 8, 0 meaning open, not watertight, right? Once again, you can see probably all the electronics in the inside and whatnot. 8 meaning watertight beyond 1 meter. I don't think it had any specific like end point, but either way, doesn't matter because ours is a 7, right? IP67. That's 7 meaning it's watertight up to 1 meter, which I do talk about at some point in this video, and how if you are greater than 1 meter with your Tacoma, you are probably in bigger, shit than worrying about your winch getting wet. So, anyways, that's it. Back to the video.
If my truck has the winch submerged 1 meter underwater, then my issues are much larger than the winch being submerged. So, not worried about that. The biggest thing is that this is fully sealed from like splash and all that sort of stuff, so you don't have to worry about it getting filled up with water and burning out. So that's pretty nice. So we got all 3 of those on there now. I slid this box for the controller just to the left just a little bit to make the room for this black cable. So next we're going to be hooking up this really tiny ground wire, and then while we're at it, we're also going to put this big one that's going to go to the negative terminal of the battery. That's going to be going down here on the bottom. So where these terminals are, these three, there's a fourth one down here right underneath, and that is going to be your ground terminal. So we're going to hook both of these plugs up, and yeah, I'll show you what that looks like. So that y'all are aware, this one down here is going to be a 13mm. Why it's different, I don't know, but it is. So 13mm. Next here we got the little clutch engage, disengage thingamabob handle, whatever you want to call it. It kind of sits on top, and then it's got this little Allen bolt here, and they include an Allen wrench, which is very nice of them. So if you pull up and leave it out, that is disengaged, and then you just kind of like push it back, it'll spring return into place, and this is now engaged. So out is disengaged, in is engaged. And what that does is when you pull it out, it'll allow you to, it's not going to unspool right now because it's not attached to anything, and I'm holding a camera. But basically it allows you to rotate this spool freely. So we'll do that when it's on the truck. So before I get this installed in the truck, I just wanted to show you this little plug on the left hand side here is what this wired remote is going to go to. So if, say, both of these die or you break it or something like that, you do have the wired remote option, and it plugs right there into the side. So we got the hood open. I could totally reach down in here and unbolt the 3 screws on each side that are holding the bumper in place, but I'm going to make my life a little bit easier, and I'm going to pull the grill back off because it's really not that hard. So once again, to pull the grill off, you got a little pop tab right here. You got 1 and 2, I think these are 10mm bolts, and then your other pop tab on this side, and then you just pull literally straight out and it should come off. But make sure you disconnect your grill lights first, otherwise you'll be yanking those off with it. Yeah, let me do that. So there we have it, and then I also pulled out these little splash guards or whatever they are that were sitting right here on either side. Literally they just slide in at an angle, and then there's this one little pop tab that pushes right into this hole right here. That is right there in the center. So now we have full access to all the bolts for the grill, or the front bumper. So we have these 3 right here, and then we also have this large bar right here. So these 3 right here, which are factory from Toyota, are going to be a 14mm. And then the ones that, this long bolt here that came with the Body Armor 4x4 bumper is going to be a 18mm on the inside, the bolt part, which is an 18mm, and then the hex nut that's up underneath here. So here we are up underneath the passenger side tire, and here is part of the crash bar, and it is going to be a 19mm socket right here on the inside. So we're going to get these 8 bolts off, 4 on each side, and that will allow us to pull the bumper off. Well, there it is in all of its glory. I realize there's a couple little rust spots where the paint has been rubbed off by the front bumper, which is very interesting. So this is the bumper off, obviously, as you can see. So we have these bolts that are supplied by Openroad, and they have these little square ones, which are really cool because they slide just like that. I gotta push it in all the way, but I gotta realign it. But they slide into the edge of the casing, and then of course these ones can thread in from the bottom, and then you don't have to worry about having a wrench in there to hold them in place, which is really awesome. And then we'll just run our standard washer, lock washer, and that will be that. So actually first, just so that it's not in the way, I'm gonna go in here and install the flat link. That's what it is. So I'm gonna install this one in the front. So we have our long bolt and our short bolt. The long one obviously is going to go through the side that has this little extra thing, which you don't have to have on there, but I'm going to throw it on just because I have it. And of course your washer on the back, so I'm going to do that real quick. Alright, one thing they don't include in the kit is the Allen key in order to put the flat link in the front. So that is an 8mm Allen key, and then the screw on the back here is going to be a 17mm, or the nut. Flat link installed. Now let's get the winch in place. So something else you guys probably noticed that I did is I have a little mat down just to keep the bumper from getting all scratched up. It's kind of the point of having it, but keep it as pretty as you can, as long as you can, right? So it's a little difficult to get these in by yourself, at least the first one, because the winch is quite heavy. It's like 45, 50 pounds, but it's possible. And once you get that in, then we'll just tighten them up. These are also a 17 millimeter. So you just kind of bolt them down, and then we'll get this guy installed back into the truck. And just like that, the winch is installed into the bumper. Now, we get to put it back on. Oh, it's so heavy. You probably want to do this with 2 people as well, but I don't have a second person, so time to muscle it. Whew. Done. Yeah, that's only a little bit heavy, and you saw me struggle a little bit with getting the plastic of the truck. So I did thread 2 of the screws on just so I know this ain't gonna fall off. So before I get the bumper completely back on, I'm gonna unclip these 2 things in order to run the this power cable, and then also I have the ground sitting down in here as well. I was going to run the cables to my Switch Pros so that I can ensure that it's disconnected from the battery when it's not in use. This terminal is a little bit too large. I got to research how much current draw that it's actually going to be taking when plugged in, because I think the dual cables for the Switch Pros can only take 35 amps. So if it's any higher than that, can't run it through the Switch Pros. But for now, just to make sure that it works, I'm going to hook it up to the battery, and that's where it's going to stay for the foreseeable future until I figure out that whole current thing. So I'm going to hook it up, and then we're going to do a quick test run before I get this all tightened back up. Fun fact, you guys, if you try to run a winch without the car on, you're going to kill your battery. So don't do that. Well, while we're waiting for the battery to charge up a little bit, I can show you. So if you pull out on the latch, on the clutch there, and rotate it to inline, you can pick up the cable and pull on it. And that's how you unspool the winch. It works good. So that's cool. Well, now that we have the car up and running, which is good, I'm going to put it back together, get the bumper all installed. The bumper did run. It did indeed go in until the battery died, but I know it works, so I'm going to go ahead and get the bumper all buttoned back up and bolted back in. Same way it came out, right? We got these long bolts right here that are going to be going through the crash bar, and then you have your 3, one's already in there, bolts on the front side. So I'm going to get those all installed. I'm going to get the grill thrown back on, everything buttoned up and looking pretty again, and then, yeah, we're going to run the winch. Alright, so the truck is running, and then we're going to go ahead and press this button in the center that links the remote to the car. And hopefully the car doesn't die on me. We're going to test it out first. It killed the car. So my battery came stock. I'm pretty sure it's like the same battery that came with the truck, and it's probably dying anyways. So I'm leaving the jumper cables hooked up to the other car just so I can get the winch spooled back in, and I'm probably going to end up buying a new battery. But just to show you guys that the winch actually spools, here we go. I'm going to hit the in button. And then I got to get the Factor 55 flat link hooked up. So I'm going to leave everything running. I'm going to leave the other car running just to charge, right? But to get the winch hooked up to the Factor 55 flat link, it's got a little pinch tab in there. So you just get a little set of needle nose pliers or something, which I have no idea where mine are. But you can pinch those 2 ends together, right? And pull that little ring out. And that'll allow you to slide this bar out, right? And then you can take that end of the rope and you can run it through here. So it's not just dangling. So we have it all hooked up there. So we're just gonna make sure that we have the winch hooked up, and then we're gonna run it in. And I guess, does that fit over top? No, it does not. So just gonna kind of set it up just like that. it's in. And there you have it. Pretty awesome. Fully installed and looking pretty darn good. I'm looking forward to getting a 20-inch light bar. But man, that looks pretty awesome. Hey, what's up guys? So just to give you kind of a rundown of what just happened with this winch. Obviously the next day I'm in a different shirt. So when I accidentally hit the button to run the winch without the truck on, which never do, by the way. Can't stress that enough, because then you won't have a battery. The winch, like current draw, is very, very high, even when it's under no load. That starting current is pretty decent. And then full current, like max load at that 13,000 pounds, is 250 amps, which is a lot. And you cannot support that on a 12-volt battery that is small. So I very quickly drained my battery beyond the point where the car could even, you know, get power for anything. Like the screen, no lights, no nothing, worked in the truck. So I gave it a jump, drove it around a little bit. Wasn't really doing anything. Didn't seem to be charging. Long story short, got a battery charger, charged it back up to at 13.5 volts or whatever it is, and then it works totally fine. With the truck running the winch will drain the battery still. Obviously the truck, if you rev up the engine a little bit, you know, bringing the RPMs a little bit higher, you know, keeping that alternator kicking, it's going to supplement a little, a decent amount, right? So it's not going to instantly kill your battery. Highly recommended to do a 2 battery setup, which I will eventually be moving to with the Tacoma. But for now, I don't have that, so I'm just going to, you know, minimize the amount of times that I need to use the winch. Obviously, I haven't needed it yet. I plan on keeping it that way. It's just there as a just-in-case kind of thing. But it looks sick, and the Factor 55 Fairlead also looks really cool. I do need to run the winch again in order to tighten it up a little bit. The bolts on the bottom, I kind of would have liked if these had some sort of a cover or like a steel ring that went around the outside of the bolt, so that, you know, if you're hitting your bumper up against the ground somewhere, the bolts are protected, so they're not getting scraped by rocks and stripped out. So I don't really like how those are sticking out so much, but it's really not that big of a deal. You know, to be fair, you do have the flat link and your Fairlead all protecting kind of the front end, keep giving you a little bit more of that depth, and then of course you have your skid plate itself. So I don't think it's too much of an issue. I'm very excited to get some use out of it, but once again, highly recommend just getting that second battery, and all that's going to do is just kind of supplement even further. You have just more amp hours worth of battery than you do with just the one, which means that you can run the winch with the engine running, obviously, longer before it, you know, drains your battery to the point where you can barely start your car. So for now though, I'm leaving the winch disconnected from the truck. It doesn't drain any battery while it's not on, right? But I do have the wireless remotes in the truck, and I don't have a quick disconnect, and I don't have like an off switch or anything for the winch, and it works. I did run it after I got the battery situation figured out with the truck, and it ran totally fine. A couple of things to kind of note that I didn't mention. When running the winch, there is the last little portion of the synthetic rope is actually red. So as long as the red is wrapped onto the winch, you're fine. Anything beyond that, don't use it, because the winch or the synthetic rope doesn't have enough, like I assume, grip on the barrel of the winch itself. So they recommend at least 8 turns, which is about that amount. But anyways, yeah, so other than that, you know, be smart and use it when you need it. So very happy to have it. Looking forward to getting some use out of it on the trail, hopefully in controlled circumstances, not necessarily something scary, but I have it, so I'll use it. But yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed. Hope you found this video at all like informative or helpful or useful. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get them answered for you. But with that, catch you guys next go around. Midnight Sun out.
Can you see the stars align? A night like this can never rewind. nights like this have never shined so bright. So take a couple steps back as you hear me start to hum. Take a couple steps back when I lose all control. Watch me turn it